At Starbucks, you had a CEO who was only there 17 months and replaced by basically a rock star CEO in the form of Brian Niccol, who came over from Chipotle. So they had to make him whole to the tune of $90 million.
Nice.
Sign-on bonuses and make whole payments to account for what he was giving up at Chipotle. But the outgoing CEO, Laxman, still got a very generous severance because he had a lot of performance targets that he still hasn't, we don't even know the value of them. So there's, a lot of that is estimated, but it's well over $20 million. And then you have, the new CEO brings in a new CFO. So that person needs a sign-on bonus. And, if you hire a rock star CFO in the form of Kathy Smith, which she is, that's over $11 million. So adding all that up, all those packages, it's very convoluted, but I had Farian advisors help walk me through it. They're a compensation consultant, very smart people. And then you've got all the advisors and lawyers and, search firms and the like. And so we came up with a number of $130 million.
What? To oust the CEO?
Yeah.
What about all the cost you can't quantify, like morale, right? Employee morale and productivity, turnover, things like that.
It's a great point. Those are so hard to quantify, but we know they're there. Last year, I did a story on the true cost of a layoff. And there we know there's a hit to productivity. There's a hit to morale. There's an increase in turnover. You're going to have more people walking out the door because they're worried. Maybe not in the case of Starbucks where you had this savior CEO come in and everyone said, okay, things will improve. But sometimes the new CEO comes in, people get really worried about their jobs, especially those who report to the new CEO who may have been loyal to the old guy or the old gal and then kind of worried so you need to give them bonuses to keep them around. Those retention bonuses can be in the millions as well. So a lot of it adds up and it's never really been sort of tallied up together. So that's what I hope to do with this story.
And you have a great chart in here. It just kind of shows that CEO ousters are on the rise. And there was a little bit of a lull during the pandemic, it seemed like. People were just kind of battening down the hatches, I guess. But now its pace has picked up. What does that tell you?
I mean, it tells me that whether it's, the new era of AI or, geopolitical uncertainty, or just the fact that, boards are maybe losing patience with CEOs at an increasing clip. And this is actually on the rise also in this year. We wanted to get the 2025 figures, and we determined that the pace of ousters is actually increased. 42% of Russell 3000 CEOs who have departed this year have been ousted, according to our friends at Exit Change who do this analysis, and that's compared to only about 1/3 in normal times.
I'm curious if there's a trend as to why these CEOs are being fired. Right, there's a myriad of reasons, but as you said in your story, it is on the rise. Was there a trend or a theme there?
I mean, a common theme, of course, is just underperformance. Sometimes you will have an activist investor, though, agitating for a change. Sometimes you will have a very involved founder figure, like you had at the case of Starbucks with Howard Schultz. But yeah, I mean, look at it across the board. It just really does seem to be that, boards are more willing to pull the trigger now. And so, as you said, though, there was a lull during COVID when it was just like, okay, let's just batten down the hatches and just get through the pandemic. Now they are way more willing to just pull the trigger. So
what's the role of the board in these things? Because at the end of the day, that's kind of their job, right?
Yeah, it is their job. They have nominating committees, on the board. It is their job to find the new CEO. They bring in advisors, of course, and they are doing this not just when the CEO is, fired or abruptly terminated. They are doing what they call succession work and advisory work.
You always have to be planning,
exactly.
Right?
You always got to be planning. Who's on our bench? But when you have an entrenched CEO, guess what? A lot of the good people are going to skedaddle. They're like, no, I want to be CEO. I'm never going to get this guy's job, so I'm out of here. So you end up having a very thin bench. And that seemed to be the case at Nike, for example. Nike had lost a lot of senior people. Then they fire the CEO, and it's like, what do you do? So they had to kind of go back to old Nike, bring a guy back who had already left. So the board, though, needs to have a better, firmer hand on sort of the rudder here. And a lot of times you have boards where some of the members are checked out and just doing it for the paycheck.